All right, hi everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome to this virtual opportunity to meet some of the faculty and a student from the history department at Chapman University. We'll introduce ourselves in a moment, and then we have a short slideshow presentation to present to you, followed by a little bit of time for any questions that you might have. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll hand it off to my colleague who will begin our slide presentation. My name is Dr. L.L. Hodges. I've taught in the history department here at Chapman for 5 years, and my specialty is in LGBTQ history, particularly the history of the AIDS epidemic. I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Adjoa Opon, if you want to introduce yourself and continue.
Yes, absolutely. And welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Opong. I have also been here for 4 years now. My specialty is 20th century African history, particularly women and development after the Second World War. So welcome once again, and we are very happy to take you through virtually, although the history department, what we have to offer, and then also hear from our students as well. Well, should Daniel go ahead and introduce himself or yeah, all right.
Hi, my name is Daniel Gunnarsson. I'm a senior history student. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So if you're able to see, Dr. Hodges, if you're able to see people come in, are you able to admit? Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so welcome to History again. This is the History Department, and we are in Wilkinson. We are part of the Wilkinson College of Arts and Humanities. And for you coming in, I know the big question is why history? Why study history? And we will try to explain some of these things. We try to give you an insight into what we do here and what your experiences should you join us will be like. So why history? History definitely informs the present. We know that it's about the past, so there's this assumption that we are studying the past and there's no connection. But history is really, our understanding of the past really helps us to forge ahead, to deal with contemporary issues, to deal with, to project, in the future and to inform how we approach some of these contemporary problems. So history is not just stuck in the past. We are also interested in examining social structures, political institutions, value systems. In other words, history is not simply about when stuff happened. We are not interested in the dates, listing dates. You don't have to list. We are not interested in dates. We are not interested in, you memorizing dates. It's also about social structures, ultimately about political institutions, ultimately about value systems. And that leads us to the third reason why you should study history or why history is important. Engaging critically with the world around us. And sometimes engaging critically with the world around us means engaging with and learning about societies outside of our immediate context. So when you come to the history department, we have faculty that have expertise in different areas. I am at 20th century West Africa. My colleague, Dr. Hodges, is 20th century US history, LGBT history. So as you can tell, there's a diversity, right, of expertise here. And the idea is that, by taking classes here and going through our courses here and interacting with the offerings and the diverse offerings that we have here, you will be able to engage critically with the world around you. And finally, a history degree helps you to build concrete skills that are sought by employers. Ultimately, you want to do something with your degree. And we know that the concern of many parents and many guardians is, what will my ward use a history degree to do? What does it look like? What are the prospects out there? And we are building skills, right? In communication, we are building skills in writing, we are building skills in developing arguments, we are building skills. And all of these skills are the skills that employers are very interested in. So if you're interested in going education route, you're interested in seeking a professional, careers, law, elsewhere, administration, these are skills that will still be needed. And so ultimately, we are interested in developing these skills in you, in your classes, in your assignments, in extracurricular activities. We want to produce students who are, useful in the workforce. All right. So leads us into this slide. A history major, what do you do with a history major? What can a history major teach you to do? Crafting clear, concise, lucid prose, mastering the art of persuasive writing, designing research projects to answer complex questions, crafting narratives and arguments around quantitative data. And I'll explain this. So, I know some of you have already had some experience in history classes and, taking history courses even at the high school level. And so you understand a few of these things here. But at the college level, we are going to build on what you already have and hopefully add to that. And so crafting clear, concise, lucid prose is something that you would come to be familiar with from your first year, second year, third year, fourth year. All these classes are developed and have in them this particular focus that at the end of taking a class with me, Dr. Hodges, my colleagues, we want to see that your writing improves. We want to see that you are able to craft not just a simple essay, but one that is a little sophisticated, one that has an argument in it, one that you can, you have confidence in, one that you can defend, right? So we are very much interested in building that. And you would also come to know that persuasive writing is part of history. Arguments, that is what we are interested in. We want to move away from, or we want to build on, shift a little bit away from descriptive writing, to analytical writing. What does that look like? What does it mean? What does a piece of writing, right, that is persuasive look like? How do I defend that? How can I communicate my ideas to a diverse audience? So in addition to writing, we have several opportunities where you present, which means you have to communicate, whether it is to your colleagues, whether it is to the wider community here at Wilkinson, or even the university at large. You learn to communicate. So communication is another skill that is built into the history fabric. Okay. Research projects, answering complex questions, very, very important. And so if you're a major, you'd realize that we start to help you develop your research interests, develop research questions from as early as your second year into your third year, and by your final year, you have solid research projects going. And my Daniel will help us to understand what that looks like and share his experience with you all. And crafting narratives and arguments around quantitative data. So we tend to think of history as qualitative, right? It's ultimately, largely qualitative, but we live in a world where we cannot ignore quantitative data. What does a historian do with numbers? What does a historian do with statistics? Those things are not history. They are part of our data. And so part of what we do is to introduce you to the diverse kind of primary sources that's out there and challenge you, for example, to look at to turn quantitative data into a historical source, to turn quantitative data to interpret quantitative data, not just qualitative data. And so we have expertise here that would also help you to do that. And so we challenge our students to think outside of the box, even if it includes quantitative data. It's not just qualitative. Okay. All right. What do you do with a history degree? And that is a question that keeps coming up, and rightly so, right? Everybody wants to use their degree to earn a living and to be sure that, after paying all this money, you will not be unemployed. So a history degree is competitive, as you can tell. This is from the Lifetime Earnings Premier. This is it's updated 2017, originally produced 2014, but the numbers haven't changed much. So if you look at the humanities right up here, it's quite competitive. Come down to history right here. History is quite competitive as well. And so it's not one that is going to lead you to you're not going to get hungry, you're not going to be unemployed. You are you are competitive out there as well, considering the skills that you come with, considering that you are prepared, to pursue careers in different areas. You are in a very competitive position on the job market. That is what we want our parents to take away from this. All right. What does a history major look like? So the major is, we don't require there's no required specialty. You don't just have to take classes in American history. You have a range, as you can tell right here. But just to sum up what that looks like, this is in terms of our core curriculum. The sophomore, there's a history seminars class where we begin to prepare you for your advanced research project. So the sophomore class is, an introduction to using secondary sources, an introduction to crafting thesis, an introduction to being able to identify arguments, make an original argument, identify main interventions. Just, by the time you are done with your sophomore history seminar class, you will be skilled in reading secondary sources. Junior history's craft, the historian's craft, is really a combination of primary, secondary sources, right? And so here you are beginning to think about your projects more seriously. Coming up with themes, starting to develop, what would eventually be a proposal for your senior thesis. And that requires, identifying key primary sources that you use and also identifying key secondary sources. And, sometimes they are in libraries here that you can access. Sometimes there are libraries out of California, and you have resources to help you to locate your resources, your primary sources, and to put your project together. And then you produce the senior thesis at the senior level. So there's the advanced research thesis 1 and 2, first semester, second semester, dedicated to really developing that 30 to 40 page thesis based on original research. So in a nutshell, we've walked you through the history department, our courses, why history is important, and my colleagues will continue from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Opong. So Chapman has some particular unique features that are very interesting for a history major, including some unique research opportunities here on campus. So we have a couple archives and special collections that students are able to use in order to practice their historical skills. And this is particularly interesting to get a kind of hands-on feel of the work that historians do. Historians need primary sources to survive. We need the actual documents from the past in order to do what we do. Otherwise, we would be writing fiction. So we have these materials on campus. We have several archives that students can use in order to actually go gain experience of looking at actual documents from the past, thinking about how to craft arguments around these documents, etc. I'll just highlight two here that are sometimes used in our courses. One is the Center for American War Letters, which is a huge archive, a huge collection of letters that soldiers wrote to people back home during various wars. You can see one pictured here. And then we also have a special archive and library dedicated to Holocaust studies with lots of primary sources also from Jewish individuals and families who have submitted some of their family's legacy and archives, letters, journals, photographs, etc. So these are two great kind of on-campus ways that students can practice working with archival material. And analyzing primary sources, finding and analyzing primary sources, a big part of that thesis that you'll write your senior year. And I just want to highlight briefly that Chapman also offers a 4+1 program in case by your junior year, you're thinking, maybe I want to take these studies even further. And, you know, I'm daunted by writing 34 pages, but also kind of excited by that. What might it be like to write 100, 150 pages on a particular topic that I'm interested in? We have at Chapman, our history program has a 4+1 BA MA program where in 5 years you could graduate with a master's. This is particularly helpful if you are interested broadly in war, which doesn't just mean, you know, the fighting. We've also expanded it to also think about diplomacy, peace, and also how war affects society. So you'd be surprised how many topics intersect with these. The MA looks to expand the study of warfare and conflict beyond the military, beyond even the diplomatic, also thinking about the social, cultural aspects. So if this was something that you were interested in doing, you would indicate it by your junior year. You would start in your senior year taking some of the classes that would count towards this MA, and then you would just have to do one more year of coursework, the one of the 4+1, in order to attain the master's. And so you're only paying for 1 year, which would make it somewhat comparable to 2 years at, for example, some of the public universities in California. So that's something to think about, especially if you already know you're interested in kind of taking your studies further. But what I want to highlight next is thinking about the ways in which studying and history and becoming a part of the history department is more than just taking the classes on campus. There are lots of ways that the department tries to develop your skills outside of the classroom, like putting on conference presentations, mock conference presentations on campus, steering students towards internships, including paid internships on campus during the breaks. Lots of help preparing for graduate school for any degree, if that's something you're interested in. We have a digital journal that you'll hear about in a moment. There are plenty of opportunities for leadership and service, both within the club, the kind of history club, which we'll talk about in a moment, and also within the department itself. And lots of social activities as well. A lot of the social space around the department is centered on our honor society. And so I'm going to hand the virtual mic over to one of our seniors, Daniel, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the History Honor Society, and then also a little bit about that digital journal that the department puts out for undergrad research. So Daniel, when you're...
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Phi Alpha Theta, the National Honor Society and the Chapman chapter of it, which I am the vice president of this year. And we have won Best National Chapter in its categories 8 times. And our chapter's online journal, Voces Novae, has won Best Undergraduate History e-Journal 6 times. We hold lots of events throughout the semester. We hold presentation nights, movie nights. Tonight we have professors versus students trivia. There's lots of research opportunities. We sometimes have professors come and talk to the club during meetings. And yeah, it's just a great opportunity to meet other history lovers. And I've been in it for a couple years now, and it's been one of my favorite experiences at Chapman. And then we also have opportunities for students to be an editor of Voces Novas, the history journal, and work with faculty advisors. And as you can see, there's lots of students who have an opportunity to be an editor on it. And it's also a great opportunity for history lovers and students.
Great, thank you. So yeah, the journal is a great way to apply some of the skills you've learned writing papers in classes. Okay, what does one do with all this work that that goes into these papers? Well, this is one outlet. This journal is something you can both submit your paper to, and as you become a junior or senior and kind of rise up the ranks, you can also gain valuable experience editing a scholarly journal. But those aren't the only opportunities at Chapman. There are also a few other that I want to point out. One, for example, is a series of paid fellowships that are available to all Chapman students during the breaks. So there's one during winter break and one during the summer break. These are competitive in the sense that they're open to all the students on campus, but the history department has a history of having students qualify and get accepted into these programs. For example, there's a program during the winter break. It's called the Winter Interterm Research Experience, or the Wilkinson Interterm Research Experience, or WIRE. But essentially for 4 weeks, students get paid, I think it's $2,000 in order to have dedicated time, 30 hours a week, working with a professor mentor on a research project. Last January, 2 of our students completed this experience. They got paid to develop their research skills. One took a look at the Daughters of the Revolution in the early 1900s. Another one took a look at changing demographics in Los Angeles during the 60s and 70s, I believe. But not only did they get the experience, they got paid to do it, and they got great one-on-one mentorship from faculty. So there's a lot to kind of look forward to if this is a realm that you want to develop your skills in. And there are also other campus-wide opportunities like, let me get the slide, research fairs. Chapman does a really good job of getting students to practice all elements of research, not just the writing and thinking that's involved in classes, but also outside of the classroom as well, like those internship or fellowship experiences I just talked about. There's also several research fairs on campus that are university-wide, in which students get help developing a poster based on some of their own original research. And these are large university-wide events in which students get a chance to practice effectively presenting what they've learned to other people. It helps make kind of that connection between what we do in class relevant to the outside world. And most history students end up presenting on their kind of capstone thesis by the time that they graduate. Finally, our club participates in, our Phi Alpha Theta Club, our honor society, participates in a regional conference that's held every year, in which history students from our department get to meet history students from other colleges around Southern California. Students get to present their work to other students and other faculty who come to represent their honor societies. And Chapman's students do really well historically at these events. Some of them even win kind of best paper awards, as you see here. And even within awards that are given to students on campus, we also have, like the Cheverton Award, we also have history students who've won that award as well. So a lot of kind of the work you're doing inside and outside of the classroom deals with original research, where you aren't even given a prompt. You have to come up with your own research topic, and you get to really dig into that topic and your interests around it as far as you can go. And this results in a kind of research thesis capstone project by the end of your senior year. So our seniors now are working on their own topics. And actually, Daniel, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit what your topic is about, even if you're still honing in a thesis, that's fine. And maybe just a couple off the top of your head of the topics that your friends are doing that you can think of. You don't have to list all 15, but what comes on?
Yeah, so I've been developing my research project for a couple years now, and I am focusing on the U.S. involvement in the Afghan-Soviet War from the 80s, specifically the actions of the U.S. government leading up to the invasion. Yeah, I've been the 398 class that students take in their junior year was when I really started forming the topic, and this semester was the first part of our thesis. So I've been just furthering my research, writing papers about past scholarship, looking at archival research, primary sources, that sort of stuff. If I like, a couple of my friends are doing, like, one is doing their project on the women pilots during World War II. Another one is doing it on the type of military equipment the Soviets used during World War II. Someone's doing it on the U.S. involvement in Cambodia. There's a lot of different topics that my friends have been doing, but yeah, it's been great for, I think, improving my research skills. Like, there's been a lot of archival stuff that I've looked at that I would have had no idea how to approach before coming to Chapman. And I've just had a much easier time going about it since I've gotten here.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. So for the folks that have joined us, thank you for your attention. We just now have some time left over for your questions. Feel free to type your questions into the chat. My colleague and I will do our best to answer them, or maybe if it's more student focused, then Daniel will go ahead and take the question. But I'll leave a few moments for folks to type those questions. There's usually a little bit of lag, so I'll just be silent while those questions come in. All right, we have a question for Daniel. What's your favorite thing about going to Chapman?
I think one of my favorite things is probably the smaller class sizes. I think a lot of my friends who went to bigger schools don't really have personal relationships with their professors, but I feel like I've gotten to know my professors in a way that I probably wouldn't have if the classes were bigger, and just a very personal environment, I think, with all the classes.
Thanks, Daniel. And we'll leave space another minute or so if anyone else wants to ask a question. Here's a good one. Daniel again. What's one thing you wish you knew as a freshman at Chapman that you know now?
I think probably just getting more involved in on-campus activities. I wish I had joined the Phi Alpha Theta Club my freshman year. I would have gotten to know more people that way. Just putting myself out there more, I think, and also taking opportunities that are presented, such as research opportunities or internships or that sort of stuff. Just kind of do, whatever is interesting to you that's presented.
Great. And then there's another question that came in about a path specifically to be an archivist and internships at a local museum. The history degree is a great degree for learning about archives. And certainly if student were to take time to build relationships with our local archivists on campus through these great centers that we have, like the War Letters Department and the Holocaust Library, there'd be plenty of opportunities there for internships just on campus itself. More broadly, Chapman is connected to a local art museum, so that's one option. But the example that comes to mind was a student who was interested in a similar path and sought out a lot of advice from professors. So getting to know your professors is really helpful. To Daniel's point, it's easier at a smaller school. And they got help applying for an internship at the Smithsonian, and they're currently doing a paid internship at the Smithsonian now this fall. So there are plenty of opportunities, both local and national, if you're interested in being an archivist. There's also, I think, the art department. I mean, there's plenty of space, and any student who goes to Chapman, there's plenty of space to choose a major, but also a minor. And I think the art department also has classes that deal with archiving and putting on museum exhibits around art. So that's another option that some of our students take as well, if that's their interest.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Just to add to my colleague's point, there is also a career person in Wilkinson. So in terms of shaping this path, very, very instrumental in helping you to develop your CVs and helping you to write cover letters and, you know, all those resources that you need to put yourself out there. So we, in addition to all those opportunities here on campus and the university's connection with these institutions, you also have those resource persons to help you put your portfolio together.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. Any other questions? I'll leave it open for about 30 more seconds for anything else to come in. All right. Well, thanks, folks, for joining. I would say if you have a follow-up question, feel free to check out the History Department website. You can find my email on there. You can also follow up and ask questions if you'd like. But we're going to go ahead and end the session. So thank you all. There should be a link to the recording placed, I think, online where you found this, but that is beyond my pay grade. Just a historian, so I'm not sure. But check back, and you could also email people, administrators, to find the link. Thank you, Dr. Opan. Thank you, Daniel, for your time. And have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day.